Today we're going to be taking some notes. You can find these notes as usual underneath the classwork tab labeled Fake News Notes. You'll just need to fill in the red text boxes as they appear in the video. Feel free to pause or rewatch in case you missed anything. So today we're going to be discussing fake news. I had you start by brainstorming about what you already know about fake news, as well as using what we've already talked about in class to inform your answers. So thinking about, how do you primarily get your news? How often do you watch, read, or listen to the news? Do you think it's important to pay attention to the news? Why or why not? How do you know if what you read, hear, or listen to in the news is trustworthy? And then how confident are you that you would know fake news if you saw it? Either not confident, somewhat confident, or very confident. We're going to focus on what exactly is fake news and how you can determine if something is fake news in these notes today. Remember that it is important to determine the authenticity and reliability of sources in order to establish their usefulness. This includes identifying the author of the source, considering possible bias both of the author and of the reader, viewing multiple viewpoints of the same event, reading skeptically and critically, and verifying evidence by cross-checking with other sources. And we talked about all of these skills in our first unit. So you have these tools. Now we're going to look at how we can apply them. I'm going to share a couple of facts with you. On your notes, I'm going to ask you to kind of write your reaction. So this is information about people in the United States. How much do you rely on national news to stay informed? The majority of Americans rely on the news a lot, 43%, some at 35%. So we're looking at almost 80% of Americans relying on news to stay informed. How much do you trust your news? 65% trust traditional media, and 61% trust search engines to give them reliable news. While news that appears on social media sites, only 34% of people trust the news there. Roughly 1 in 4 Americans say that they have shared untrue news stories, and 39% of Americans who feel very confident that they could recognize news that is fabricated. Of fake news traffic, we see most of it is linked to social media. In fact, Facebook has about 30% of fake news. While if you rely on news in real media sites, 8% can be fake news. So based on this information, how does this change your idea of fake news and its impact in society? Also think, was there anything that surprised you about any of these facts? Majority say that fake news has left Americans confused about basic facts. 64% feel a great deal of confusion. And there's a lot of blame passed around on who is responsible for stopping the spread of fake news. The majority of that responsibility falls on government, politicians, and elected officials, while we also see a large responsibility placed on social media networks, as well as members of the public. As we have discussed, the number one person in charge of finding reliable sources and interpreting news is you. So now, what exactly is fake news? It is disinformation for profit. This is when hoax sites create fake news stories to make money. We also see disinformation for political gain. Websites are set up by one country to create confusion in another, making it hard to know what is really true, how the government is being run, and how we are making important decisions. Hackers gain access to websites and social media accounts of well-known news outlets to share fake news. We also see viral pranks where hoax are spread for fun. And uncritically reporting a hoax as fact. This is when a believable hoax spreads wildly enough that a credible news outlet reports it as fact or as rumor. We talked about some of these when we talked about bias and fact versus opinion. What is not fake news? Fake news is not satire websites. There are websites like The Onion, which write news parodies, and readers sometimes don't know if it's satire and may mistake it for fact. Parodies are an imitation of the original, but exaggerating it to make the original look ridiculous or to make a comment about an issue affecting society. So these are often things that seem blown out of proportion or just so ridiculous that they cannot be true. We can also see satirical stories from regular news sources. Opinion and feature writers in mainstream media will sometimes use satire or hypothetical examples to make a point. This is when you will really have to judge if what you're seeing is a joke or if it is real. We also can see honest reporting mistakes. Even the best reporters sometimes get things wrong and report things as facts before they're confirmed, or can get spun by sources who aren't telling the whole truth. If there's no intention to fool anyone, it's not fake news. And then finally, journalism you don't like. Just because you don't like what the author says, that does not make it fake news. Everybody is entitled to their own opinion, but just because you disagree does not mean it is incorrect. But there is some good news. You can learn how to spot fake news and prevent the spread of incorrect information. You can do this first by considering the source. Use the CRAP method. This is the method of evaluating website credibility that I introduced to you last unit to evaluate your sources and can help you look for things like an anonymous author, excessive exclamation points, capital letters, and misspellings, links to sources that does not support the claims being made. This also includes reading beyond the headline. If a provocative headline draws your attention, read a little further before you decide to pass along the shocking information. Even in legitimate news stories, the headlines don't always tell the whole story. Also, make sure that you're checking the author. Make sure they are an expert in their field or have experience in their area. Google them to find out more about them before trusting them completely. And then looking at the support, many times bogus stories will cite official or official-sounding sources. And once you look into it, the source doesn't back up the claim. Also, make sure that you're checking your biases. Confirmation bias leads people to believe in information that confirms their belief. But the next time you're upset at some Facebook post concerning maybe someone you don't like or an idea you disagree with, take a moment to check it out as you want to see multiple different viewpoints. Also, make sure you're asking yourself, is this a joke? Remember, there is such a thing as satire. We talked about satire when we talked about political cartoons. Again, this is using exaggeration to make fun of something. Normally, these satire websites or articles will be clearly labeled, and they can be funny. But we also have to make sure that it is clear before we share that it is a joke. And then finally, make sure that you use experts. Debunking takes time, but there are many sources that can help. You've got factcheck.org, Snopes.com, the Washington Post Fact Checker, and polyfact.com. You can use all of these if you are unsure if you're viewing real or fake news. That is it for the notes for today. Please make sure that you go back if you have missed anything and reach out if you have questions. Thank you so much. Have a great day.